Hey everybody, it's Chris Conley from Abundant Professional. Great to see you. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about productive collaboration with your colleagues. I'm working with a lot of different organizations and individuals, and one of the key things they struggle with is productively collaborating with their colleagues. They're frustrated because maybe everything's oriented toward Zoom meetings. They go in there and they're presenting PowerPoint slides, and then there's an endless discussion, and they feel like they don't get anywhere with the work. And I think this is very common. I think it's common because we don't have a good model for pushing work forward in a collaborative way. A lot of you are working as individuals, but you're being asked to collaborate with others, maybe across sectors or disciplines. And the question is, who taught us how to collaborate better? We know how to maybe communicate better. We know how to coordinate our work. I'm doing this, you're doing that. Coordinating work is very different than collaboration. So what is it about collaborating and actually working towards a shared goal, or having ideas come from multiple people to push work forward? What is that like? What is the answer there? Well, I want to share with you today a simple model called the collaborative cycle. And I've been sharing this for probably 10 years now, and I think it's a much better way to work collaboratively with each other and remind yourself the kinds of modes or different activities you have to engage in with your colleagues to efficiently go from having something to work on to moving it to the next stage. So let's get into it. I'm going to go over to my other scene here that makes it easy for you to see the slides. I don't want you to see all those yet, actually. Oh, don't look at those. Those are already up there. And I'm going to move over a little bit so you can see the slides. So great. So the collaborative cycle, what is this all about? First of all, it's got 4 modes, and it starts with preparing for those by having a focus. So too many people, too many teams enter into their endless discussions because they're not clear on what part of the work they want to move forward. And so you get people asking questions about one aspect of the project, somebody else having ideas to move some other aspect forward. And it's just a very inefficient way to work on something. So to prepare for a good cycle, figure out what aspect of your project you want to move forward and focus on that. Or if you don't have a full project, but you have something that's bothering you, or something that's not working right in your organization, just focus on that one thing, and set it up as the focus for this cycle. Okay, so set things up. Next, you want to gather 5, 7 colleagues if you can, 3, 5, something, and have a generative session. Have ideas come out for that goal or focus for this cycle. Could be ideas about what we could do to improve our patient intake workflow. It could be how to set up one aspect of our user experience in our application. It could be generating ideas for the holiday party. Who knows what it is? It could be anything. And that's the beauty of the collaborative cycle. It's applicable to any type of project work. So take time to generate as many ideas as you can. And during this mode of working, during this activity, you are not discussing things, you are not debating things, you are not judging things. And a good way to remain in that mode is when somebody has an idea, instead of thinking like we normally do, what do I think of that idea? Do I think it's good or bad? Think instead, oh, what does that make me think of? Cool. And, yes, and, right? The improv technique. So you want to, in the generation, the more ideas you get out, the better. And the more you practice this, the higher quality that group of ideas will be. You know, when people get started, they make a lot of jokes about generating ideas, and they're like, anything, cars can fly, and what if I could just transport myself? And if you're good at ideating, you don't necessarily have to go to such extremes to have better and better and better ideas. Better ideas do not mean fantasy ideas. And when you get better at ideas, if somebody does say something like that because they're joking around, you still in your mind think, that's cool. How might I build on that? What does that make me think of? So instead of maybe transporting, maybe it's connecting people quickly with text messages or something like that. So in this phase, make sure you're generating as many ideas as you can. Okay, what's the third phase? Third phase is clustering them, putting your metaphorical pencils and markers down and looking at the ideas and clustering them into 4, 5, 7 clusters of ideas that are kind of like each other in some way. And that will depend on the types of ideas and the content of your project. But take the time to organize them a little bit. This helps everybody get familiar with what the ideas are. It helps give the ideas some structure. You label those categories with kind of a name of these are of this type. And that helps you understand the kinds of ideas you're having. And that takes you to the third mode, fourth step, which is discuss that with your colleagues. Go, okay, we have these clusters. Is there an approach or a way of doing this that we're missing? Or there's a whole category, or is there another category of ideas we could have a quick brainstorm about? And in this one, you're really discussing the character of the ideas, the gaps you may have, and ultimately in this phase, you want to prioritize some. Let's take one from that category and that category and that category and push them forward. So you're editing and picking things that you think have some merit and you want to move forward. And that sets you up for the final and fourth mode, which is synthesis. Synthesis is actually bringing some of those ideas to life before you debate them to death. Bringing to life means giving them fidelity, make them real in some way, make them tangible, manifest the ideas in real life. Now, when you're good at low fidelity prototyping and making things quickly to give a sense of what it would be like to interact with it, to experience it, then this stage can be very efficient, and it adds a ton of information to whether those ideas are feasible, desirable, or viable. So the synthesis is a really important part, that you're not fully committing to those ideas. You're not, just because you picked a few ideas and you're going to prototype them does not mean you've left everything behind, nor that you're completely committed. You're still in evaluation mode and trying to learn and understand. It may turn out all three of those or four of those ideas you wanted to bring forward don't actually work very well. Or while you're making those, you're like, oh, a much better idea is this direction. And maybe you circle back around and say, could we play with that idea a little bit? So those are the 4 modes with prep at the beginning of having a focus that are really necessary to push work forward. Now, how much time do you take on these? Well, certainly you prepare the goal or the focus before your session. And generally, if you're doing something that's a practical part of a normal project, this is going to be an hour and 15 minutes of work together. And so you can replace your standard hour meeting with a collaborative cycle and make quick progress on your project. For generation, this is usually the bulk of the time, and it's about diverging, right? It's about diverging and not judging. So how many ideas can you guys have that address the goal or focus? Third, you're organizing, and that take 10 minutes. Don't take a half hour or 45 minutes. None of these things should feel heavy. They should feel lightweight. They should be fast. And in the beginning, it'll feel awkward because you don't know how to do it well. You haven't been through it. It's a play as a team. You're not running very much. But as you get better, it gets very natural to work through this cycle together, 10 minutes, 15 minutes for each step, and you get a lot of good quality content. Same thing with discussing the idea and the character. 10 minutes maybe. You're not debating full-time commitment. You're not figuring out the full investment that it would need to move that thing forward. You're saying, which of these ideas that we've had today, organized and discussed, do we think we want to move forward? And then finally, synthesis. Now this can take a few hours, the rest of the afternoon maybe. It could take days, depending on the complexity of the project you're working on and the thing you're trying to manifest in the world. All right? So that's the collaborative cycle. I hope it's interesting to you. I'm going to put a link to a place where you can download it in the comments below. Let me know in the comments if this resonates with you, if it's generally the thing that you try to use when you push work forward with your colleagues, when you collaborate, or if you're one of those that are kind of frustrated and have been at your wit's end for being productive with your colleagues, Tell me which aspect of this you really like, that really resonated with you. That seems to be one of the missing puzzle pieces in being more productive with your colleagues. Okay? So thanks for watching. Appreciate you guys. I'll see you in the next video.